Coming up on today's edition of Vikings Now, we discuss the elite special teamers that the Vikings did sign yesterday. And then also, guys, we got a positive Brian O'Neill update. It's going to feel good to have our franchise right tackle back in the purple and gold on game day. So I'm going to give you guys everything you need to know around Brian O'Neill. And we also got three players who I think absolutely balled out against the Seattle Seahawks. And I think those three guys actually will have a chance to earn a roster spot for the Vikings team next season. That is what is on tap and more on today's edition of Vikings Now. Let's get into it. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero broke the news yesterday, and he said the Vikings are signing veteran linebacker Tanner Vallejo per source. He says he's an elite special teamer. So we'll be diving into all that and more. But, guys, I want to give a shout-out to actually you guys. We had over 100,000 people join our Vikings watch party from preseason week 1. So clap it up to you guys. Give you guys selves a nice little pat on the back there. But we also are going to be live at 6:30 p.m. Central Time for Vikings-Titans this Saturday. It's the home opener of the preseason. So make sure you guys subscribe. Stay in the loop, or no matter what it may be. If there's news, rumors around this team, I want to be your go-to Minnesota Vikings YouTube channel. And then, hey, you can also join us for our watch parties where we have a ton of fun as well. So make sure you join the 100,000 that joined us last week and also hit that subscribe button. But Tom Pelissero, he was the one that broke the news yesterday about the Vikings signing Tanner Vallejo. And we obviously knew the Vikings special teams did struggle against the Seattle Seahawks. You don't want to overreact too much to obviously preseason special teams play, but it seems like Vikings GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah seems like he reacted, and he did bring in Tanner Vallejo, and he is 28 years old. His athletic profile, he sits around 6'1", 230 pounds. He was drafted back in the 2017 NFL draft. He was a 6th-round pick 195, and actually was wearing the blue for the Boise State Broncos. And where his career's gone so far, he's been around the league for a little bit. He was back in Buffalo back in 2017. Then he went to the Cleveland Browns in 2018. Then he was with the Cardinals at the beginning of 2019, got put on their practice squad. Then the Redskins ended up poaching him that same year. But then the Cardinals did end up bringing him back to the 2019 season, and they had him throughout the 2022 season as well. But overall, he's an elite special teams guy. He's big, he's fast, he can move. So it's going to be good to see him kind of, be a key contributor to the special teams unit for the Vikes, because clearly, they needed it because they did not look too good in the first preseason game. Now he is back, ladies and gentlemen. We got the right tackle back. This feels so good to finally have some positive injury news around Brian O'Neill, because we saw it last year, how bad the Vikings were when he went out of the lineup. But he did participate in team drills yesterday for the first time after tearing his Achilles at the end of last season. I can't understate this. This is absolutely huge for the Vikings. Like we saw last year, during the last 2 weeks of the regular season and that playoff game against the Giants, not having Brian O'Neill, I can't undervalue or understate how much this means to this team specifically, because we know Kirk Cousins. He's a very statuesque, not the most mobile quarterback, so getting him solid protection, I think, is absolutely massive. And then having that tackle position finally solidified with Christian Darrisaw on the left and now Brian O'Neill back on the right side of the offensive line, it just makes me feel more confident as a Vikings fan to have those two out there. And PFF, they graded him out very well last season. He's always graded out well according to PFF, but 82 overall grade, 77.9 in the pass blocking department, and then run blocking, he's always been dominant. One of the best tackles in the league in the run blocking area for the past couple of seasons, grading out at 82.4. But I think this is also huge because if you look at the Vikings offensive line as a total right now, their backup unit and their second and third string guys got absolutely humiliated against the Seattle Seahawks. And one of the guys that we really saw struggle was a guy like Oli Udoh, who is set to be the swing tackle for the Minnesota Vikings. And he just struggled with really setting the edge. Anytime the Vikings tried to run outside and it was on Oli Udoh's side on the right or the left side, he was being flipped around during that game. There was just no edge being set. And the guys were able to kind of shoot through those gaps no matter what it is. So having Brian O'Neill back and not having to go with Oli Udoh, who the Vikings had to run out there during the Vikings playoff game versus the Giants last season, where he actually ended up not playing too bad, but I would much rather have, obviously, Brian O'Neill there than, obviously, the sixth-rounder Udoh out of Elon. But I do want to ask you guys this. I'll make this the pin comment on today's video because I'm curious. Because the Vikings offensive line, I think there has been one position group that us fans have wanted to be fixed over the past couple of years. It has probably been the offensive line. But heading into this season, What is your confidence level in the Vikings offensive line? Scale it for me, 1 through 10 down in the comment section. YouTube's going to throw an ad break your way right now. Sit back, let it play, and answer today's pinned comment. Coming up on the show, we do have 3 players who might have earned a roster spot after the Vikings-Seahawks preseason game. And I'll give you guys a little hint. We are talking about Ivan Pace, the fan favorite, as his legend is already starting to grow here in Minneapolis. So I'm going to be excited to talk about him. But first, I got to let you guys know about the great deal we have going on at our proud sportsbook sponsor, BetUS. And if you use promo code CHAT125 when you go to chatsports.com/bet, you'll get a 125% deposit bonus. You might be saying, Patrick, what does that necessarily mean? That means if you put $100 into your account, they're going to give you $125 just free to play with. And you know what I would do with that money? I would use that to bet on the Vikings to win the freaking NFC North next season. Because for some reason, if we're looking at this right now, James and Smitty, the Vikings won the NFC North last year by winning 13 games. And they ran away with the division. But they're second, according to Vegas, and according to the bookmakers out west, in the odds. They're plus 270, so that means you put $100 down on the Vikes, you'll win $270 back when the Vikings eventually repeat as NFC North champions next season. So guys, take advantage of the deal. Go to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code CHAT125 and go put a bet on the Vikings to win the North again next season. Now let's talk about it. These 3 guys I think have possibly earned a roster spot. And Ivan Pace, honestly, I could be making the argument that he should start already, but he absolutely balled out against the Seattle Seahawks. He did great in the run game, actually did a lot better in coverage than most fans would have anticipated, but he did just live up to the hype coming out of college and live up to the hype that of the reports coming out of training camp. Because we all know Brian Asamoah, he's going to hold down this linebacker unit, no doubt. He is the no doubt linebacker 1 for this team. But then we kind of had that debate. Could it be Jordan Hicks? Could it be Troy Dye, Troy Reeder? Or could it actually be the UDFA out of Cincinnati, Ivan Pace Jr.? Well, the kid had a team-high 6 tackles in the game against the Seahawks, and it was absolutely great. Just watching him hit these other players over and over again, because we knew what was his one glaring positive of coming out of college was he was a hard hitter, and we saw it come to fruition in the first preseason game against the Seahawks. I'm a big fan of watching them play, and just the overall energy he brings. You can literally feel it coming off the TV screen. Also, a cool little tidbit about him, he was wearing the green dot for the Vikings defense's preseason game, so he was calling all the plays. He was the one manning the unit. I think it's just a pretty impressive feat for a guy who is a UDFA, and he could be potentially starting for this team week 1 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I think he's got a chance. But I'll ask you, what say you? Will Ivan Pace Jr. start week 1 when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roll in the U.S. Bank Stadium led by Baker Mayfield? Will Ivan Pace be the starting linebacker? Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no. Number 2 on my list, a shocker here. Joejuan Williams, the former second-round pick from the New England Patriots, he was brought in by the Vikings this offseason to help out a much-needed cornerback room. And like I've been saying this all offseason, I think cornerback 1, locked down, it's going to go to Byron Murphy. But cornerback 2 and 3 and 4, I think they are up in the air. Like Andrew Booth Jr. and Caleb Evans, they were listed as the Vikings' top corners when the depth chart got released before the preseason game. But I honestly think this could change because you've seen guys like Tay Gowan play really well. Mekhi Blackman, the 3rd rounder out of USC. We've heard Brian Flores rave about him all offseason. He looked absolutely great. And then Joejuan Williams, he looked fantastic as well. He had 2 sweet pass breakups, and you could just really feel his overall size when he's on the field. You know, he's 6'2". He's a bigger corner in the NFL. But I will say a lot of Joejuan Williams about him making the team, I think maybe this guy could get cut. I know. A second rounder out from last season out of Clemson. No way the Vikings cut the second rounder from last year. I think he's got a chance because he did not look good against Seattle. And he actually didn't play at all during the first half, which I think was the biggest red flag, kind of the biggest indicator that maybe this Vikings coaching staff might not be in love with him as much as we think. So maybe Joejuan Williams, if he's stealing a roster spot, could actually be the former second-round pick out of Clemson, Andrew Booth Jr. That's going to be a huge storyline that I'm going to be watching during the second preseason game against the Titans. So also make sure you guys tune into it for our watch party. I'll be breaking it down there as well. But number 3, I just can't believe I'm saying this. Jalen Reagor has actually been turning heads, not just at training camp, not just at the practices, but he absolutely balled out against the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, this was probably the best first half I have seen Jalen Reagor play in his career. It's actually Chipper. He's an Eagles fan here. He actually texted me during the game, and he said, "Is this the best Jalen Reagor has ever looked in his NFL career?" Yeah, I probably got to agree. He had 3 receptions for 55 yards in the first half against the Seattle Seahawks. He looked absolutely fantastic. And listen, we all know he was the infamous player who was taken before our very own Justin Jefferson back in that year's draft. He was taken at 21. Jefferson was taken at 22. So he clearly has first-round talent. He's clearly a very athletic player. So maybe he could be coming to his own and really be a big help for this Vikings wide receiver room. And I will say this, a little hot take here, because I know there's a lot of Bengals fans and maybe even some Cowboys fans that would disagree with me. But I fully believe this right now. The Vikings have the best wide receiver room in the entire NFL. One, you got Justin Jefferson. I think he's the best weapon in football, not just receiver, running back, tight end. The best overall weapon, I think, goes to 18 in Minnesota. And we're talking about also the number 2 option. Well, Jordan Addison sure did live up to the hype against the Seahawks. He looked fantastic, super fluid route runner as well. But then it's those other guys that excite me so much. It's the Jalen Reagors. It's the Jalen Nailors. It's the KJ Osborns. Like, I think as a whole, the Vikings wide receiver room, I think it's one of the deepest in the league. But then you also got the top-end talent in guys like Justin Jefferson and Addison. I'm going to declare it right now. Vikings have the best wide receiver room in the entire NFL. Most fans would probably disagree with you, but I bet you at the end of next season, bet you they're going to be agreeing with me. But I'll ask you guys this. Who impressed you the most from the Vikings' first preseason game against the Seattle Seahawks? I'm going to give you guys a chalk answer. It's probably the most common one. We'll get in the comments section. I'm going to go Ivan Pace Jr. He just looks fantastic. You can feel his energy off the screen. I love watching him play football. So let me know, who impressed you the most from the first preseason game? And as always, guys, we are going to be live for the second preseason game against the Tennessee Titans. It's going to be a ton of fun. We're going to be absolutely having a blast there. So tune in 30 minutes before kickoff. We're going to be live at 6:30 p.m. Central Times. Vikings, Titans, home opener in U.S. Bank Stadium. So make sure you guys subscribe, lock us in. No matter what comes out around the Minnesota Vikings, we're going to be your go-to Minnesota Vikings YouTube channel. Lock us in. And as always, we'll see you guys next time. Skol Vikes.